Welcome back. This time we're talking about Allegiant, the third film in the Divergent series based on Veronica Roth's best-selling trilogy of young adult books. Now these are books I haven't read, but I have seen the previous two movies. Divergent, which came out 2 years ago, was a bit of a surprise, I have to admit. We've pretty much had a deluge of young adult adaptations, and for the most part they haven't worked, or even if they did, they didn't catch on to an audience and they died a quick death. Divergent not only made enough money for it to actually start the film franchise, but in my opinion was actually a pretty good movie. A lot of that can be credited to actress Shailene Woodley, who plays the main character, Triss. I'd seen her in previous things like The Descendant, and in this movie she really takes that character, and it's a good character arc. The book, and I assume, but the movie, which I have seen, developed this great character arc where you have Beatrice at the beginning of the movie, and she changes her name to Triss and has this development, and at the end is a completely different character, and you get to see that growth, and that's something that will attract me in good storytelling. Unfortunately, the main premise of the book, which was about these divergents and this faction system and how they're a threat to the system, never actually really explained why the divergents were a threat to the system. It makes sense, but it shows how good the characters were and the world they were trying to develop that I didn't mind it that much in that first movie. Last year we got Insurgent, and we realized they really don't have an answer to the questions we hoped they were going to give us. That coupled with a much less interesting story arc where we had Triss very angry over things that had happened at the end of the first movie, it was a much less successful film. I still enjoyed it and was still somewhat looking forward to the third one. And now we have Allegiant. And the wheels have fallen off the bus, to use a cliche. This is not a good movie. Holy cow. I don't know what, I really don't know what happened. I like I said multiple times already, I haven't read the books. I don't know how much problems there were in the original source material and how much it was to the adaptation, and them trying to turn half a book into a complete movie. But very little about this movie makes sense. I actually saw it on Saturday. I was planning on doing a video yesterday, and it didn't work out, so I ended up doing it today. And that extra day has allowed me to think more and more about the movie, and the more I think about it, the less it makes sense. The character decisions, the main plot, just about everything that happens in this movie, you could pretty much pick apart and go, that does not make sense. So yeah, this is a definite downgrade from the previous installments. Quick plot synopsis without spoilers. We had the war in the second movie, Insurgent, and that's sort of resolved, and now we have the chaos of how do we rebuild our society. Which could have been an interesting story, except Triss has no interest in this, even though she helped bring about this revolution, reluctantly though it was at times. She's interested in this message that they received at the end of the book, which is replayed at the beginning of this movie, in case you forgot, that the entire city of Chicago and everything that we've grown to know was actually part of this experiment. And the divergents weren't a symptom of a problem, but they were actually the end goal. So she wants to leave the city and find these people and figure out what they wanted, and I guess hope that somehow they're going to fix all their problems. Because there's just utter chaos and near anarchy now left over from this war and the destruction of the faction system. So she really doesn't seem to care that much. She just wants to get out there. So we have our main characters. We have Triss. We have Four, played by Theo James. We have Peter, played by Miles Teller. Christina, played by Zoe Kravitz. And Triss's brother, Caleb. And so they're going to set off and defy the new regime and escape the city and try to find these people. And basically they do, and then they find the people, and from pretty much the first moment that they appear on screen, I had this inkling that things were not going to go well for this story, and I was pretty much proven true. I'm all for expanding a story's world, you know, throwing curveballs where everything that you thought was what was happening was actually something else. If you can pull that off, there's some good storytelling to be found there. In this case, it's basically, yeah, everything that we've gone through the first two movies doesn't really matter. Just forget that, and let's concentrate on this new stuff, because that's what's important. To the point that there's a couple characters that can actually do surveillance on what's happening in Chicago, and it's like, wow, there's some really interesting things happening in Chicago, but we're not there. We're out here in this new stuff, and there's no character development. It's cliche relationship troubles. The ancillary characters, Christina, Peter, Caleb, have almost nothing to do, and it seems like a lot of times they're just trying to find things for them to do so they can still be in the movie. It's such a mess, and coupled with that is just it really seems like, I guess, you know, I know from what I've read, the worldwide gross has been going up with these movies, but the domestic gross has been going down, and I really didn't pay that much attention to know for sure, but it seems like this one had a smaller budget because some of the special effects are pretty bad. Some of them are decent, but a lot of them are, there's other moments where it's just not that good. And there's one scene in particular in the early, like, first 10 minutes, there's, I think it was Peter that's in it, and it's so obviously a green screen, it pulled me completely out of the movie, and I was just like, oh, once again, that was another one of those moments where I'm like, I'm not sure if this is going to be any good. And it's not. It really isn't. I mean, there's characters that we care about that, again, that we grew to like in the first movie, we tolerated in the second movie, and now it's like, it's not enough. There's just not enough in this movie to warrant wanting to go see it. I mean, if you really are engaged and you want to know what is going to happen to these characters, I guess you can go see it. But I'm betting you're probably going to be disappointed. I'm assuming they're still going to make the fourth one, which hopefully will be the second half of this book, and we can call it a complete series. Obviously, I'll be going to see it because that's what I do. But any anticipation I had after the first one and a little bit of anticipation I had after the second one has pretty much been killed by Allegiant. So that's about it. I really wish, I was hoping it would be better. I wish I could give you better news, but I gotta be honest with you, this was a complete mess of a movie. So, as far as the rating goes, I'll say this. The acting is good. Shailene Woodley once again proves that she can take nothing of a script and make something out of it. It's just her character is given so little in this movie. There's no development, no nothing. Theo James is decent as 4. The other characters, I mean, they basically get some scraps. I don't even know if there's a bone in there that was thrown their way. So they did the best they can. So on the ability of the cast alone, it elevates this to a C-. Yeah, it elevated it. So, if you have seen Allegiant and want to comment below on what your thoughts were, please do. You can always subscribe to my channel. And as always, until next time, see you at the movies.